Hello there, Canadian, Japanese yen. I have a lot of contact and communication with you guys on especially Instagram. One of my the people who I have a lot of contact with pointed out that Canadian dollar, Japanese yen was something he was watching at. So let me check that as well. Um, of course, I get a lot of questions from people. Can you tell me, should I go long, should I go short, should I go what's the trend in this, what's the trend in that? So that's that's I understand the question, but the thing to me is when I look at this, I want to not just tell you what I think, but I want to tell you why I think that. So let me do an analysis on Canadian dollar, Japanese yen. I always start on the bigger time frame. That's what we're looking at right now. This is the weekly on the Canadian dollar, Japanese yen. Something that's quite obvious right from the beginning, of course, is that we are in a, as it looks, downward trend. When we point it out like this, we're in a downward trend. In the last couple of weeks, price seemed to have moved to the upside. And when I would have been watching this by then, something that that we see right here is that it moved into a previous support, now resistance. I think when we go further back, it was support as well, and we'll probably catch this line a couple of times in when we go to the history of that. So price ran into this area, and it seems like, to me, it seems like it turned around from here. Also, if I would have been trading this back then, something I would have seen is this oversold level. Then again, the divergence that was on the chart from here on out, because this low in price action is showing us this we see this on the on the RSI as well. Then we made another low, and we didn't see that on the RSI anymore, and even another low over here. So momentum was shifting to the upside, and eventually it did move to the upside. So that's pretty clear. After the weekly, I switched to the daily chart. When I see this, I see a little bit the same pattern. And that is that we are in a declining channel right now. RSI is showing us that momentum is indeed building to the downside further. Maybe this will be a little divergent when we look at this, but don't think so, not yet. Also a pretty obvious trend line over here, which was support a couple of times. When we draw it over here, we see a first time when it was support over here, resistance over here, resistance over here. So this is starting to get some indication that this in fact is moving lower. It's switching around from that trend line. We don't know yet. It's also trading below the 20 moving average. We've seen a retest 1, 2, maybe a third time. The moving average is on this trend line as well at the moment, so it could be acting as a resistance. And price has been trading on the outside of the Bollinger Band as well, so that indicates that momentum is indeed downward. What do we have here when we switch to the 4-hour chart? Here we see the same thing. We see that price found a touch of this trend line. That was indeed what we saw. After that, price started moving lower, broke the moving average and retested the moving average a couple of times, but it seemed to have held until now. This was a low I would have been watching that got broken. Here we broke the moving average a little bit here. This would have been a last attempt, I think, to go higher. And ever since we are on the 4-hour chart, we have been moving lower indeed. So trying to get to conclusion. What do I see here? Something. This is something else that's going on, because this low and this low is showing us a little divergence. So maybe the downside momentum is losing some steam. But that being said, going back to the bigger time frame, the bigger time frame is a downtrend. We have touched the trend line and we have touched a resistance on the bigger time frame as well. We have broken the moving average on the bigger time frame, so those very important zones, the resistance, the trend line, the moving average on the bigger time frames, which are more valuable than on the lower time frames. Those signs all show me that price is willing to move lower. Then on a daily chart, I see the same thing. I see lower lows in price action. I see lower highs. I see descending trend lines. I see prices moving below the moving average, and every time it tries to come through that moving average, it gets rejected. So maybe we are in for a nice move back to this resistance, back to this this trend line. And to point it out, if you are willing to short this to me would be a nice place to do that, because enter on the trend line. Move it a little bit up. So enter on the trend line just below the moving average. Of course, your stop should be at this resistance, previous support area, and the potential to me is, you know, the next really big level is around maybe this area where price was finding resistance. Let's put it like this. So there is some room at least to go down there, but I also a little bit further. I also think there's room to go a little bit further. Entry would be the same. Let me see where the next level is. So this is a level to watch, and then of course down here there's another one. So there are some TP12 setups, if you ask me. So I to answer the question, I don't know if this was considered to go long or short. With my analysis, the way I look at this market, I would say this is a short, because of the resistance and trend line on a bigger time frame. So let's see what happens. One last thing, when we move to the 4-hour chart, we see the same. This is a pretty obvious high. When price breaks this high, then we are not into this trade anymore. And make sure you'll be watching this trend line. And the daily is giving us the clearest signal, the clearest information, if you ask me. So that's it. That's the way I look at the Canadian dollar, Japanese yen. Also, make sure if you trade this that you know a little bit about the fundamentals. It would be a sad thing if you have a great setup like this, and for example tomorrow the Japanese yen or the Canadian dollar will have a major event where the interest rate will go up or down, or more stimulus will be added to the yen or something like that. Of course, make sure you know what's going on, and if that's another green light, then you have a lot of green to go short, if you ask me. Good luck and happy trading.